Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. A crazy battle here going back and forth, and Fulcros taking down Blue Boys. It's just gonna be a Goomba! It's a Goomba, ladies and gentlemen!
Drive himself into death.
And here it is. No!
But John C6 coming.
They're gonna push him off the cliff, and there he goes! The team diving in!
Welcome everyone to the WGLNA Season 2 Finals. We are here in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada at the beautiful downtown Grand Hotel, where one of these teams will battle it out for the chance to win $75,000 in our final match tonight. 4 teams are ready, and they are pumped. We've got Noble, we've got Eclipse, Simp, and HWC will be showing up for our second match, and there is $140,000 on the line, so you know they're a little bit excited. And here to join me on the show, fresh off of his Chippendales audition, Meadowhawk.
Thanks, Jose. You flatter me. I am super excited to be here. I've been spending all my time with all the players that have been flying in all over the world. We got some guys from the U.S., we got some guys from Canada, and even one player from Ukraine, all here to battle it out for all that prize money.
Now, are you excited for the festivities tonight? I mean, these are some big matches for some big prize money.
The prize money is huge. The atmosphere is awesome. If you ever want to look to get into Gold League professional gaming, these are the events to come to. Outside, we got the World of Tanks Hummer, the Alienware truck. They got stations all set up. You want to try out all the Tier 10 vehicles. They have accounts that have them all unlocked. Try them out. It is a complete electric playground out there.
It is definitely. I'm more of a T57 guy myself.
Yeah.
If T54, if I'm going to go.
Autoloaders, all the way.
Autoloaders all day. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing with us tonight.
I'm going to be here in the pits interviewing all the players. I will be bringing you inside info as to how they're feeling, what they're prepping, how the games are going to go.
Color me excited.
Indeed.
Are you ready for this? Because it is going down tonight. One of these teams is going to be really rich, richer than me, and now we're going to go to 2 guys who know a little bit more about tanks. I think you know them pretty well.
Oh, yeah, they're my battle buddies for life.
Battle buddies for life. Let's go to Christian and David.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Las Vegas Finals. My name is Christian Toma. To my left is David Williams. And David, we're here. We've got the players here. We've got the fans in the room. You guys watching at home. We've got our finals ties on. And like Meadowhawk said, we have our Battle Buddies for Life emblems that he made. He 3D printed these guys. It's super excited. David, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. You could cut the tension with a knife here. This is probably going to be the closest finals we have ever had in WGLNA.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting, guys. Make sure you stay for the entire night. There's going to be plays. There's going to be pies. There's going to be money. I mean, what else do you guys want from an amazing World of Tanks show? Now, before we start breaking down each of the teams that you can be expected to see, let's go over and remind you to go to fantasywgl.com. Hypnotic has put together a fantastic minigame for you guys to play. What you're going to do is you're going to pick who you think is going to win the semifinals. You're going to pick who you think is going to be the winners. You're going to pick who's going to be the winners of the 3rd and 4th place matches. You're going to pick 5 plays on your team, and you're going to pick how much damage you think is going to be done through the entirety of the finals. But it's all going to be worth it, guys, because what is on the line? You can win some Type 59s, Panzer 58s. You can get a Tier 10 tank of your choice, premium time, gold, XP boost, all that fantastic stuff. So go over right now to fantasywgl.com and check it out. And now before we get into it, also, right, a little bit of a teaser here, right at the end of the pre-show, we're going to be having Fubar with the MVP of this Season 2 Gold League. We like to recognize a player who kind of stands above the rest, so he'll be presenting that now. But before that, let's talk about the 4 teams we've got tonight. Starting out, we're going to have Noble. So they're going to be the first ones to play. Now, Noble, a great way to start the finals because we're starting out with the team that was Season 1 champions. David, before we kind of get into what they've been doing this season, tell me about just their history, Noble as a team.
Well, obviously, they're defending season champions. They're formed from the remnants of a team called Cunninghams. They've been in the season for a very long time. They've got a huge amount of talent, and they've been progressing all season long. We really saw them hit their stride closer to the end of last season, and I look forward to seeing what they can do this time around.
All right, so now looking at their season history so far, walk me through kind of their strong, weak points. Going back, they had a lot of 5-0s, a lot of 5-1s. They're looking very strong this entire season.
They definitely started out very, very well. beating up a lot of teams on Cliff. They went over to China to play one of the older format tournaments. When they came back, they felt a little bit off. And you could see that there were some adjustments, updates. They brought in TVPs, T22s were around, so it's a very quick adjustment to make. And they had to face off against Simp very early, who took them down on Cliff. So we haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
But Noble's the type of team that likes to camp on their strats. And I don't mean camping in general. I mean they like to sit on the best stuff that they have and only break it out in the finals. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of what we've seen in the past. Maybe a little bit of steps play, maybe as a fallback, because they're just almost entirely hands down better on it than most teams.
Wow.
But this is a nice little thing to keep in the pocket. So we might actually see them go to Cliff fairly early this time around.
Oh, that'd be interesting to see indeed. Now, walk me through kind of the roster changes. I know Friction they picked up, who was huge for them. Came in, started playing immediately. One of your old teammates, in fact. Kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Friction is a huge asset to have on the team. He can do almost anything on the battle, and you can definitely just delegate stuff to him.
And he's good.
And he'll take care of it. He's a wonderful player to have as a caller. And when you have players like Canadian Impact, Militant, Dotema, Friction, there's a lot of stuff that you're now able to do because they will have cohesion, and you can just focus on the overall big picture. In fact, so many people think the Noble's going to take this. 50% of those who have been on WGL Fantasy so far have voted them to take this entire finals.
So just the double again. They were last season's champions. You think they're going to do it again? That's a huge thing if you guys. So if you kind of want to weigh in, if you think they're going to win, if you think it's going to be someone else, go over there right now and let us know so we can kind of get those hopefully updated with you throughout the night. So Noble's mentality as a team. One of the things that I remember from last season is coming in, they just seemed a lot just kind of at ease with everything. They were ready to play. They didn't seem to take themselves too seriously, and that seemed like a huge advantage. What do you think the mentality of Noble is as it stands?
That was one of the most interesting things I saw from last season. High Voltage came in very strong last season. Noble hadn't been looking all that great until they got into kind of the later half.
The playoffs.
And the playoffs, most importantly, took down Refuse, who looked like they might be the favorite to take the entire thing. And then from there, we saw them at the finals, and they were just very calm, very nonchalant. And I think that is one of their biggest keys to success. Even in that second match, when they lost very, very quickly to High Voltage, they were able to keep calm and just play their game. And that is a huge asset to have. And live finals like this, is there's so much more pressure.
Sure.
You're away from home. There's lights. There's a crowd. It's a very different environment. And now you are playing for the money. Everything else is a chance to play to get to the money. And then this time around,
this is it.
There's a small chance they could lose their trip to Poland for the grand finals.
Really?
If they do not play their best. So this match, starting off with Eclipse, if they win this, they are virtually guaranteed, I believe. I think they are guaranteed.
Okay.
So this is hands down an incredibly important match for them. Eclipse is, we'll get into that when the actual matches start.
So now talk to me about, like you said, these guys, they're not at home. We've talked about this during the regular season, but again, go through just the difference between playing at home to playing here at an event, the keyboards, the mice, the food, the area, the lag, all that stuff.
Well, they're not going to have a whole lot of those issues here. They're using a lot of their own hardware. The network here is very, very, very stable.
Sorry,
so
layover,
overall,
lag, jet lag.
The jet lag. Okay, I see what you're getting at.
No,
yes, that's absolutely
no
a huge deal. I mean, you're moving time zones. Your entire diet gets thrown off. There's all sorts of little things that you don't think make a big deal until they do. And you never want you never want to change as much as possible. You want to keep things very, very stable before you go into one of these matches. But Noble, like we said, is a very resilient team. There's a lot of experience on it. Some of these people, like I said, we've been on my teams. Many of them have, well, almost all of them have been to a finals before. I believe their entire starting lineup has at least been to 2, maybe even 3 finals so far.
It's a great starting lineup.
It is definitely the team that is favorited to win by the fans, and the only other contender we're seeing pop up there on the fantasy side so far is going to be Simp. But for Noble, this could very easily be another repeat for them, but they're going to have to get through a lot of tough battles for that to happen.
Now you talked about Noble's resilience as a team, a lot of their maturity. A lot of these guys been to finals before, played a long time in the leagues. Would you say that's the biggest strength that Noble has, or what is the kind of the strength as Noble as a team?
Definitely. Overall, if I had to pick the biggest strength that Noble has, it would be live finals play. I don't think they're necessarily on top of strategy right now. They have player skill that is equal to or perhaps greater in a couple instances. I don't think their cohesion is as great as some of the other teams. But when it comes down to it, like we said, you can see they just almost have no nerves when they come into these. This is just another day for them, and they're just going to play it. They've been around the world now, traveling to a lot of international events, and that really helps stabilize you.
Really? So now we're kind of done talking about Noble, but like you said, the favorite to win. So we'll see if they can hold that up. First, they're going to have to get through Eclipse, who is the next team that they will be going up against. So let's kind of talk about Eclipse as a team. One of actually my favorites to win this one, just because of the mentality that we talked about. They were just been having a great time. Mort's up there when you get a look at him. He has a fantastic hat on. You guys are going to be able to see. But let's kind of talk about their story. Walk me through Eclipse. Where did they come from? I know they're really new to the league.
I mean, they are the dark horse of the league. I mean, we mentioned in their interview that their entire goal for the season was simply not to get relegated.
Right, yeah. They're like,
and they've
we just
obviously
don't want to get
done
relegated.
a lot better than
Top
that.
4.
Many of them, this is their first finals here.
Yeah.
They've quietly built a much better team as the season's progressed. They've dropped off some of their original members as they came out of Silver League, and they've been replacing them with players like Brett and Mort, who are fantastic
Brett.
additions to the team
Brett.
and really helped round them out. Eclipse looked a little bit weaker until they got into the playoffs, and for me, once they started in the playoffs, what they did to Caller wanted, the overall control and level of play that they had showed a lot of promise, but they are a fairly young team, and they are inexperienced in the finals event. So their biggest weakness here is the finals event itself.
Okay.
The big question for me is whether they can handle their nerves. And if they can, they have the strategic prowess, they have the player skill, they can win this entire thing. Like we said before, every single team here has a chance to win. When it comes to the fantasy WGL scores, though, I think a lot of people are underestimating them. So far, they have 6.8% of the vote to win it all. And I simply just don't agree with that. They're definitely, I'd put a lot of these much closer together, and they are definitely a team to look out for.
Oh, well, one of the things, just kind of piggybacking off that, going around before we got here a couple days ago and asking, what are your thoughts on who you think's going to win? And it seems like every single person had a different idea of who was going to win. Oh, Noble. Oh, it's going to be Simp. Oh, High Voltage just got this. Eclipse is probably going to win. I mean, it's amazing. So to see the kind of closeness of all these teams. But let's keep talking about Eclipse for a little bit. Their history throughout the season, right? Started out a little rocky, and like you said, kind of hit a point where they really built as a team and started all of a sudden, instead of having like 5-4s or 5-3s, like 5-0s, 5-1s, 5-0s. What do you think attributed to that? Was it just a pickup of some roster changes? Was it them just getting used to the league?
So it's definitely the roster changes, along with just growing used to the format and how the administration works and how you have to be ready for battles. I mean, some of their early struggles in the season were things as simple as locking in too many of the same tank.
Right.
I mean, there's a two-tank limitation
that's so
overall
true.
here for any particular type of tank. And they brought 3 140s 2 different times, and that's immediate disqualification.
Yeah.
So with the roster changes and a little bit more adaptation to that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden they turned into a much better team. And like I said, once they hit the playoffs, we really saw them hit a completely different level of game and really find their stride.
Yeah. Now, kind of talking again about the mentality of Eclipse, kind of touched on it a bit, but they remind me of Noble from the last season finals. They just all the other teams are coming in, they're ready to play, they're going, and what I love about Eclipse is during the practices yesterday, they're having a great time making like funny jokes. Even right now, as we're getting into it, everyone's laughing, and I feel like if the other teams take themselves too seriously, that might be a huge advantage that Eclipse could have over them. Is that what you see? Is that kind of like the way that you mimic that? Is that their mentality is a little less stressful than the rest, and do you think that could be a help?
Like they said and like I said, their expectation was simply not to get relegated. Right. So for them, everything from here on is just a bonus. And that puts them in a very strong position. As long as they can keep it together and play the best that they can under this circumstance, they're going to give Noble a run for their money in this first game, no doubt about it.
All right, now looking at the rest of the comparing them to the rest of the teams of the league, or even let's just do comparing them to the 4 teams tonight between Noble, Simp, and High Voltage. Who do you think Eclipse is either more like? Who do you think they have similar strategies to?
Well, that's an interesting topic because I believe that they are most similar to Noble overall. In fact, in a couple different instances, I've considered them as Noble Jr. in a sense, but that doesn't even do them justice to this point. We are about to see essentially the master face off against the pupil, which is especially ironic considering one of their team players is Master Pupil himself.
Nicely done.
But it's going to be a great game.
Nicely done indeed. So now what about their grand finals? Let's talk to me about that, just kind of their position going into it.
I believe they have to win the overall number one
win it
to get there. There's a lot of complexity in how the points work, so we'll have to check on that a little bit here. But they can still do it. And I'd be very interested to see how they fare in an international circumstance. But any team that makes it all the way through this definitely deserves to go and will be ready.
All right. Now, talk to me a little bit about what it will take for Eclipse to win. I mean, looking at the team coming into tonight, what is it going to take for them? What do they going to have to do to surprise or bring new strategies out? Or is it going to be bunkering down and doing what they always do and just sticking to that?
One of the things about them is they have changed. Their strategies haven't been the same all season long. They've been progressing very steadily.
That's kind of scary.
Working out a lot of key mechanics. They're so good. In fact, there was one game where one of their players disconnected due to kind of a freak event with his computer. We didn't even notice because they actually shot him in the track to stop him and then parked somebody else in front of him so he didn't go. And they did this under the gun, under so much pressure that we didn't even spot it during the game. And that is incredibly impressive. That's not something I would expect a new team to even be able to do. Usually that throws people on tilt. And they even won that overall set. So it's just an incredibly impressive feat for a team that is brand new to the league.
That's a huge feat indeed. Congratulations to them for that. Now up next, that's going to be the first match of the night. Match number 2 is going to be Simp versus High Voltage. So let's talk about Simp for a second. David, their history as the league. I mean, just not just the season. Tell me about Simp because they've been around for a long time.
Simp is essentially one of the legendary teams, one of the most tenured teams in the league. I played against them all the way back in season 1. They've never stopped playing. They've never stopped performing. I believe they've always made a playoffs ever since then. It is definitely a team to watch out for overall. And this new iteration of Simp is, in my opinion, the best Simp that has ever been.
Really?
As the season has progressed, they've picked up some of the remnants of Refuse, E63M6, Cool Hammer, Rude Awakening. And Rude Awakening is an incredible asset
That
to
is
any
for sure.
team. This
That
man
is
is
for sure.
English and Russian bilingual. He's been a caller ever since the dawn of the league. He has more of a perspective, more of a strategic scope and knowledge than anyone else does. He can actually
great
listen
person
in.
to have.
He can actually listen in on some of the Russian teams,
And
some
know
of
what
the
they're
best teams in
saying.
the world, and know what they're saying, and learn their methodology, which is incredibly invaluable. When we played, we had a player named Soviet who unironically could actually speak Russian, and that was a huge asset to us. He did a very similar thing, but Rude actually can do it himself. He can parse all the forum conversations.
Gosh.
And he can boil down these strats. And ever since he's joined the team, I've seen a marked change in their overall strategic perspective. They're one of the first teams that's actually been running a lot of timing strats this season around.
is so
and if
important.
they maintain that skill and they've brought that level of game to all their maps, they've quietly built what I consider one of the #1 super teams, maybe in the world, but definitely in this league.
Wow.
You look back at their entire roster, everybody aside from Nitz has played in a finals event in the past. And this happened on the lowdown all season long. They didn't debut with fanfare like a team like Noble. We didn't make as big of a deal about it as we did, let's say, Friction joined the team.
Right.
Or when High Voltage was formed from the remnants of a lot of other
these
teams.
guys are brand new coming in.
They immediately were branded as a super team. Simp, as Overlord Prime said, struggled at the
Built
beginning of
it.
the season, but once they took down Noble in that first game, they've been in a hot streak ever since.
Yeah.
A number of teams that are not here right now, because I'll never talk about the teams that are here and what they tell me. The number of teams that are not here right now said they've been practicing against Simp, and that Simp is just utterly unstoppable right now.
Wow.
In my opinion, if everybody plays as perfectly as possible
Simp
and they
takes it.
do not falter under the lights, Simp is the best team overall, most rounded at this finals right now.
Wow. All right. Well, one of the things I also kind of want to talk about is looking at their history throughout the season, like you said, kind of starting off a little weak, but then just really building. In my mind, when I think of Simp, it's one of the face-offs that we had with Overlord Prime, where he talked about, hey, I just feel like as a team, we haven't been giving the fans they deserve, haven't been giving the fans what they want. And it was like after that, all of a sudden, it's like, wow, now they're giving the fans what they want, what they deserve, and absolutely looking like a terrifying, terrifying team. Simp. David, talk to me about their mentality. What do you feel like is their way of thinking as they approach this game?
They're just incredibly calm overall, and they have so many people. They've told me that so many people on their team are able to communicate, and that is the most important element of this. Many people get stuck at the simple communication parts. Oftentimes there's a teammate that can step out and solve your problem as long as you communicate that problem, but many people get flustered, and they don't think that can happen. Simp doesn't have that issue. Many of these people, like I said,
great
all
issue
of them
to
have
have.
played in the finals aside from Nitz. Nitz being one of their more tenured callers overall. I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal to him. So they are looking very, very prepared. And like I said, I still think that right now, if everything goes according to plan, they are the #1 team in the league at this moment. And they snuck in. If you look back at their actual season, they weren't slated to be in the top 2. AM60, Aquatic M60s beating High Voltage gave them their second slot, and Noble
Right.
played against Simple
That's right.
Tankers and almost lost, and that would have bumped them
That
up
would've
to
been it.
first. So they would have had to go through playoffs, and they were pushed directly into the buys that got them here, and that is a gigantic advantage overall, as they do not have to actually adapt to a lot of the other stuff that's going on. They didn't show any of their cards.
Yeah.
And nobody knows what to expect as they come in.
So, I mean, you said like Eclipse is kind of the dark horse, but like in my mind, that makes Simp super scary. Like, hey, you just have a solid team. Everyone's amazing. We don't really know how to stop you, and here you guys are now in the finals, and they'll again be facing off against High Voltage. But back to kind of Simp, David. I guess the question of what will it take for them to win is just play to their best. So maybe I should
Absolutely.
rephrase it. What do you think would be the potential to throw off Simp?
You know, if it's their strats are very difficult to run, and that is the biggest problem. Is when you start playing a very, very high level, little things can throw everything off. And if they run those plans and they think they have the best laid plans out there, and they catch a curveball or somebody starts choking, that can put an entire team on tilt. I don't necessarily think Simp is as vulnerable to that as some of the other teams might be. They're very much like Noble in that instance.
Okay.
But that is the #1 thing they have to watch out for. As long as they play their game and don't get in their own heads, it's okay. It's very common for people to think, you know, especially teams like Noble, if they win their first rounds, both of them, and they play off against each other, Noble may have strats up their sleeves. They may have answers to things. It's very easy to get in your own head and think that people are playing a different game than you. But the reality is they have the same spotting, the same guns. There's nothing special
It's the
about
same
them.
game.
Doesn't matter. Whoever you're playing in the world, they're all playing the same game. And if you're confident your strategy will work, execute it, and you will very likely win. And I think Simp is looking pretty for that.
All right, and up next, the final battle who is facing off against Simp is going to be High Voltage, the second place winners of the Season 1. So they're coming into this getting so close. I can only imagine that that's them just wanting, like, okay, we tasted the glory of first place. Now we want it for ourselves. David, talk to me about their story. Again, starting last season, super strong.
We'll get into that one second. I actually forgot to mention that Simp has the second overall highest prediction to win on FantasyWGL.com.
Oh, okay.
30% of people have voted for it.
Wow.
So now we can get into High Voltage.
Oh my gosh.
Now we can get into High Voltage, who for them, right now, and this is a surprising number. Right now, 12.8% of people have voted for High Voltage to win.
Interesting.
So they're in third overall according to the fantasy predictions. But that's not everything, obviously.
Nope.
But they've had a very, very rough season. They lost one of their callers in the very beginning of the season. They went to China like Noble did in order to play, and that kind of threw off their overall game. They've had a lot of adaptation to do to move from one caller to another. There was a chance that their actual caller now wasn't going to make the finals due to kind of an issue with his visa.
When
he is here.
When he got here, everyone's like,
He is here. So they are looking pretty. But the problem is, it's just been a very tumultuous
Rocky.
season for them overall.
Yeah.
And if they can get it together here near the end, I mean, that's the type of team that scares me the most when I play them, because you don't know what to expect. Teams like Noble, and to a lesser extent Simp right now, you've seen them play all season.
Okay.
You know their style, you know what to expect, and you know they're great. So there's things that you can expect from that, and there's things that you can work with that. Right now with High Voltage, they've been all over the map. So they do have an advantage. As long as they stick to the game that they play, they rotate, they rely on their player talent, and they develop more of a cohesion than we've seen in them since.
Yeah.
Then they'll be absolutely a contender to worry about. Simp right now, we've talked to them a number of times. That's all they say. We talked to them about Noble, and they're like, no. All I'm worried about is High Voltage right now.
There are people that I've been talking to who believe that whoever's going to win this entire night is going to be decided by who wins Simp and High Voltage. That is what I've. So again, it's just another thought that's been out there.
Well, people have all sorts of opinions.
yeah. Well, and again, looking at the fantasy picks, the percentages are a little more skewed than we talked about, because other than that, again, super even who is going to win. It'll be interesting to see. So talking about High Voltage, again, coming into this, compared to last season from their mentality, when they showed up right before the Season 1 finals, it was just, everyone was like they were ready to play day one, like right when they got there. And it seems a little more lax this time. They come in, like you said, maybe not setting that expectation super high, which would then make them scary. For High Voltage, what do you believe is their strength as a team? What do they have going for them?
They just have immense player talent overall. If their cohesion can get together, I mean, they've got Ox Mathis, they've got Wallhacks.
Yeah.
Wallhacks is, in my opinion, the best scout that they have, or that's in the league right now, perhaps even in the world. I'm very, very critical of scouts, and he has been nothing but impressive. He's come in the clutch and saved them in a number of situations. Yeah. The grandiose 07 battle, which came down to KT and Wallhacks playing perfectly to bring it out. Wallhacks' route was perfect, his shots were perfect, and this is a player you can always rely on. He's a nice boon to the team in terms of morale.
Sure.
And these are the kinds of things that make High Voltage permanently a threat, no matter what is going on with their overall strategy. You always have to worry about some players being able to go into the clutch and just pull the whole game out of the fire.
So now we kind of talked about the mentalities of each of the teams and maybe really touching on it. But going a little more detail, David, you've got to talk to these teams over the past couple of days. What do you feel is their mentality tonight? What is their kind of approach to the game?
High Voltage is very, very calm. And you're talking about High Voltage specifically, yeah?
Yeah.
High Voltage is abnormally calm. And then maybe this is because now that they've traveled to Japan and China, and they've had a lot more live events. I mean, the first time we saw them was last season's finals, and that was the first time that they'd been to a finals event together. Many of them have been, Ox Mathis, Wallhacks, Blue Boys. They lost Heavy 20 going into this season, and in my opinion, that's a huge loss. He's one of the best players in the league while he was around. Apparently did not want to update to Tier 10, as that's kind of a hard thing to do. And, players play for long enough, and it's time to move on. But they've put in a lot of new players to fill that spot. They've got Bird, they've got Rat Thief.
Yeah, so many good.
A lot of depth in that chart.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the four teams battling it out for $75,000 and the title of the WGLNA Season 2 champions. Right now in chat, let us know who you think is going to win. Just cheer on Noble, cheer on Eclipse, cheer on Simp, and cheer on High Voltage, because it's really, like David and I were talking about, anyone's game here. It's going to be super exciting. David, any final thoughts?
I just hope everybody plays the best that they possibly can, because this is going to be exciting.
This is going to be a fantastic night indeed. Now, as we kind of promised, we kind of teased at up front, we're going to have Fubar sitting with the MVP. Fubar, who do you got?
MVP. That's right. We are here. Season 2, WGLNA MVP, the one, the only Blue Boys. Give it up for Blue Boys MVP. Now, not only did you win it, this is your second MVP award. How does that feel knowing that, now you're a two-time winner of the MVP?
It was very, very surprising, actually. I wasn't even thinking about it at all. None of the awards really mattered to me this season. I was just focused on playing well and making sure the team worked.
And what is it that makes the team work so well, that you can earn that MVP throughout all the other players that you're playing with?
I've actually asked why people thought I should get MVP, and because I was so surprised. I didn't even know why I won. And everyone said that it was consistency. And I was just like, really? What are the stats that you got for me? And they were just like, I had like the highest average per battle. And the Vetro, he has the highest damage, all that stuff. But I had the highest average consistency from all the battles ever since we, kind of broke down week 2.
Now, are you going to bring that consistency to tonight's event? This is a big event now. Now you have the MVP trophy. There's another trophy I'm sure you'd like to win today as well.
You are so right, man. I'm looking to bring the consistency and be one of the best players here tonight.
Well, good luck on your event tonight. Thank you for joining us up on stage. We also have some other awards that we're going to be giving away later today for most damage done, most tanks destroyed, and highest fantasy points. So be sure and stay tuned for that. And now we're going to talk about the teams in the first match that we have, the defending champs Noble and the team that plans to put a little darkness into their world, the Eclipse. And we got a little interviews with them. Let's see what they had to say about tonight's match.
I'm CJ, also known as Germ, the main caller for Noble. I first started getting into gaming when I was very young, for sure. I remember for Christmas when I was maybe like 5, getting a Nintendo for the family. That was probably when I first started gaming, playing Super Mario Brothers. I started playing multiplayer games when I started to discover that the internet was more than AOL Instant Messenger. That may date me a little bit, but around the time I was in junior high, the first online multiplayer game I played was StarCraft, the original, online with a friend at school, when I found out how to actually play with other people in an online game. And that changed everything, because I found out that I was really bad at the game that I thought I was pretty good at, because people were a lot better than computers. I then went on to play other games. I remember playing games like the original Counter-Strike and Half-Life mods and things like that online, and I found out I sucked at those games too. Basically, I started at the bottom and knew that it took a lot of improvement, a lot of work, a lot of skills to hone and stuff to get any good at it. Then I went to college and kind of died down hardcore gaming during college until the end of it, when I found out about this game called World of Tanks. When I read an article about it, it actually sounded like great gameplay. I was always into history. I was a history major in college and liked World War II, and it sounded like fun to drive a Tiger tank and shoot people. I was doing my thesis and stuff, so I was really odd hours, and I joined a clan not until after I had about 7,000 battles. I didn't know what XVM was. I didn't know what stats were. I didn't platoon with anyone. And then people had started doing that and starting to approach me because my stats were good-ish, maybe not the most amazing, but good enough. That's when I first started platooning and found out that I was apparently purple, whatever that meant at the time. That's when I first got into clan wars. It was with the quote-unquote scrubby clan, but it was fun. There was a great group of guys in that, and we were playing in Africa and losing on Sand River every night. And then I started calling in that clan, and then I moved on from there and started doing tournaments and joined Havoc. Endo, who was in Havoc at the time, recruited me and a bunch of other people. Actually, Adroxus, who's here on Simp right now, was on that exact same team. He was a sub though, so he hadn't quite proven himself to be a starter yet. That was my first taste of tournament format. It was before the Gold League came around, and that's where it all started. That team dissolved. I joined another team, Pub Stars, and then eventually ended up on the Cunninghams, now Noble. And that's been a whole transformation process too, from what I was when I originally joined the team versus what I am on the team now. Some people play poker, some people, play softball, do those type of things, and for me, it's esports and World of Tanks is how I get my fix for competition.
My name is John, and my in-game name is Tigers, and I play for Team Eclipse. I am their primary caller, which means I direct the strategy. I've actually been playing the game since high school in the Clan Wars scene, and so I've been very competitive in terms of both the game and also my personal life. So I'm just a very competitive person. I just kind of have an inner drive to always be the best. When I was like a kid, like middle school, I probably played like Call of Duty a little bit, and then I played a lot of strategy games. I always liked Civilization series and the Total War series, and then I got into World of Tanks, and I kind of immediately was drawn to the end game of it, specifically like the clan wars scene, and then eventually into the esports scene. My first introduction to actual like team play was probably in Tank Companies, which was one of the kind of older formats, which is not as common anymore. And I would play T50 or T50-2 in team battles, kind of the scout role, and I've always enjoyed that. I enjoyed coordinating the team and kind of directing that from the front lines. In high school, I was a captain of our debate team, as well as I was on a leadership position in a lot of other smaller high school clubs, as a lot of people are. But I'd say captain of the debate team was my first experience in a leadership role. That's just kind of continued. Initially, when you get into leadership positions, it's because you feel like you can do a better job and you want to have your opinions heard. You feel like you want to actually push something in the right direction. Sometimes it eventually turns into a responsibility thing, where like even if you don't necessarily take enjoyment from it, you feel that you need to continue doing it in order to continue helping your team. We're confident right now that we can continue to play with the best. And I think that even if we get bounced out of this final, there's no shame in that, facing a successful team like Noble. Next year, we're going to be even better. Expectations are only going to be higher next season.
Timmy's no stranger to the run and gun, but he's brand new to World of Tanks. He'll need to rely on teamwork to... Wait, Timmy? Running straight out there. Don't.
So it's another Monday, we've got a video for you. This is to tell you about a new feature we're rolling out from next Monday, that's February the 29th, which is going to be Map Mondays. And a spectacular original move, it's going to be about maps. Now these are going to be short videos that give you the basics of how to survive the maps in our game. We're starting with Mines, and the week after we'll go on to Mittengard or Death Bowl, and they'll be rolling on from there. We'll also be covering the new maps that are getting added, so Pilsen's coming up, and we'll also be covering maps that get reworked. Sacred Valley's being reworked right now. By the way, if you see the guides and think to yourself, hey, I can do a guide like that, or you can do a better guide, please put them together and send them in to us. We'd love to use them. So, Map Mondays starts next Monday, February 29th. Join us for that. Meanwhile, enjoy yourself on the battlefield. Have a great week.
Timmy has successfully learned not to run straight out there. Hey Timmy, great work staying with your team and not running straight out there. But Timmy, the enemy has seen you. Shouldn't you find cover? Timmy, looks like your teammate is taking cover. Quick, get behind them. Take cover. Do.
Welcome back. We are still here in Las Vegas talking about the WGLNA Season 2 finale. Now it is time to get down to the nitty-gritty. It's time for talk is over. It's time for tanks. We are going to get into our first match. Make sure you're following us on all social media using the hashtag WGLNA Finals. And let's do it. We have two teams who are ready to go to war, and we're going to talk to our war heathens at the war table, Christian and David.
Thank you so much, Fubar. That's right, my name is Christian Toma. To my left, you know him, you love him. It's David Williams, and we are here at the live Las Vegas Finals. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Oh, here it is. That is right, guys. Up first, it is Noble versus Eclipse. It started. At the end of this, we will know one of our two finalists battling it out for $75,000. Now, David, one thing we didn't talk about in the pre-show is what happened the last time that these two teams meet. Now, they only play each other once in the regular season. And when they faced off, Noble beat Eclipse. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Now, that score came down to 5-1, but I don't feel like that was really reflective of how great of an effort Eclipse put in. And they're nothing but a better team since then. This was one of the early parts of the season for both teams. And due to the fact that Noble and High Voltage had to go to China, Eclipse played vast majority of their games in the beginning of the season. So they've actually had a lot of time to change and adapt in the later half after they've added some of the players we were talking about there in the pre-show, Brett and Mort. So like I said, they are a much better team. And I like I said, 5-1 did not necessarily reflect how well of a performance they put on. It's a number of mistakes they made. Some of those battles were much closer than the score would show. But overall, I think Eclipse is going to be ready to put a much better game out on the table today against Noble, the defending champs from last season.
That's right. Again, these are the top 4 teams in the WGLNA League right now. And up before we get into the battle, we have Fubar standing by with the team member from Noble. Fubar, take it away.
I am here with Comps. Now, this is the big time right now. You guys are the #1 seed. You guys get the first match. What is it like right now for your team?
Well, I mean, it's just business as usual. I mean, we've been prepping for the last 2 weeks. We have an intensive boot camp, and we're just here to play our game.
Now, do you feel any added pressure knowing that you are the team that everybody's trying to, take down?
No, not really. Like I said, we are prepared for this, and we are here to win.
Now, can you want to tell us any strategies that the other team might be able to hear so they can try to, avoid those tactics?
No comment.
I tried. Now let's go to Meadowhawk with Eclipse.
Thanks, Fubar. I am here in the trenches with Eclipse and Tigers Love Pepper. Now, Tigers, you guys have set a straight course from Silver League right here to Live Finals in Vegas. So how has your team prepared for the pressure that is Live Finals?
Lots of practice, just like any other team that's here. We've been practicing pretty much every day the last 3 weeks, getting ready for matches, and we feel like the more practice we have, the better we're going to play live, and it's ultimately just down to how we play today.
Should be a good match. Now, the last time you saw Noble was back in week 2, way back when, where they beat you 5-1. Do you think you've had enough time throughout the season to challenge the last season champions to a good run?
If you look at our team, it's completely different than the team that lost to Noble earlier in the season. We brought on a lot of great roster additions like Brett and Mort that are in our starting lineup today that were not even on the team a few months ago rather. The calling is different. Zim and I are both actively calling, whereas before, Conky, our former team captain, used to have a role in that. So our calling is different, our play is different, our cohesion's a lot better. So I think we'll give Noble a run for their money. They're a great team, and let the best team win.
Indeed, best of luck. It should be a good match. Now to call all of the action, my 2 battles buddy for life, Christian and David.
Thank you so much, Meadowhawk. That's right, he gave these both to us, so maybe that means that the fight is done. We're both his battle buddies. Or maybe he's just trying to pass off battle buddies to us. Either way.
I just think he didn't want to crush your heart here right before the main final days.
Hey, I refuse to believe that. Now let's pull up the brackets for tonight. Excited to see what we've got up first. It is Noble versus Eclipse. That is happening right now. The winner of that will move on to face off against whoever wins battle match number 2, Simp versus High Voltage. And once they battle it out, we will have one final winner, the winner of the WGLNA Season 2 Gold League, and the winner of $75,000. It's going to be super exciting. David, what I'm also excited to see about this particular match is you said these teams, Noble, Eclipse, are very similar to each other. Eclipse, you called them kind of a mini Noble in the sense. And I would say that the kind of the fantasy page really resembles that. So many wins on both of those sides. Let's get right into that to take a look at kind of both of these teams. David, kind of break it down for me. The maps, their tanks, the players. What do we got?
Well, a lot of this comes from the regular season. Noble playing the most on steps, like we said, is probably their fallback map. They use the T-22 most overall, which just makes sense in general, as it's a fantastic tank. And Akula actually sneaking in the top score there. A lot of changing hands of that for them throughout their overall season. Eclipse has played Prohorovka the most. They've used the 140 the most, and Master Pupil has been their leading scorer for quite a while here. But overall, I don't necessarily expect either of those maps to be played today by these teams, as there's just so much footage out there for both of them. They're not going to want to do it unless they have perhaps a brand new strategy that they want to break out, something that's going to throw the other team for a loop.
Sure.
But looks like we're already going to be starting off with Ghost Town, which is very, very similar to what I expected. You haven't seen a whole lot of that out of either of these teams, so it's always best to try and keep your opponent in the dark, play maps that you've been preparing for that people don't have a whole lot of footage on.
Sure.
And this is definitely going to be a slugfest, as Ghost Town always forces conflict, and it's always a lot of very big heavy tanks.
I wonder if it's going to be kind of Ghost Town we haven't really seen a lot, which is just a ton of rush, right? Everyone's just rushing up. They're trying to get into it. But sometimes people try to look for the caps. They try to bait that out and draw an enemy there. But I want to see like a Cliff version or a Mines version of Ghost Town, just right in that center cap. Everyone just driving to it and going ham, going right at it. Ladies and gentlemen, right now we're about to get into the battle. Let us know who you think is going to be the victors of this match. Will it be Noble? Will it be Eclipse? We are all ready. They're in their tanks, and it has begun. Let's take a look at what we've got for tanks.
For Noble, we have two 113s, two 215Bs, two E5s, and an Object 416. For Eclipse, an E100, a 215, an E5, a T22, a W100, a T10, and a T54E1. Very interesting lineups coming out from both of these teams. Noble will be starting on offense, so an uphill battle for the defending champs from Season 1. And Eclipse getting a nice, comfortable start here on the defensive side.
So many, what I love, right off the bat here, we're seeing tanks that we normally did not see in the regular season, you're right. So definitely these teams have been preparing, been practicing to try to pull something out that's going to throw the other team for a loop. Now David kind of talking about the opening positions here. Noble staying very, very bunched up. Only Marsh kind of hanging out there. We'll see a scout in there in that Object 416, while the rest of Eclipse is starting to spread out. David, what do you think we're going to start seeing here as the battle continues?
We're definitely seeing a whole lot of pressure on the 2 cap. We've been waiting to see this most of the season, as there's a lot of nice angles. If you can secure some of the some different sides of this box, you can definitely draw the defending team in, and that is one of the best situations you're going to get on the offense. Previously, we've seen a lot of teams go for the 1 cap, but the adjustment to Tier 10 has made that a lot less viable. Taller tanks, bigger guns, the E100 can spray HE in there, but Eclipse already getting a whole lot of motion here, trying to sneak around on the backside of Noble. They do have a lot of the spotting they need. We're going to see if they're going to get the angles, as Marsh is going to float around the east side for containment, and the rest of Noble stepping on the cap.
There it is. Look at that cap pressure right now. Noble is here. Let's see what Eclipse can do. They've got 5 members on the center cap, dropping the cap down to 23 seconds already, and Eclipse is starting to move in from all corners of the map. This is probably where I'm assuming Eclipse's spread could help them, but it also could hurt them, because once Noble finds they have an overmatch, which it looks like they do right now with Master Pupil, T1 Diabetic, and more, they're just going to take it. Master Pupil now getting surrounded there in that 5B. Dodo doing a good chunk of damage, 11-27, 451 right into that 20, and he goes down. The first tank of the finals has fallen. It's on the side of Eclipse. Germ picking that one up, and there's another one. Friction takes down Mort. T1 Diabetic looks like he might not be able to go where, but look at Eclipse. They're starting to come back. Draw Cabin, Dark God Zim picking up 2 kills right there. T1 Diabetic still alive, taking a lot of damage, but he is holding on now by just 90 points of HP. He takes down Marsh before he goes down himself to Dodo. 3 tanks on the side of Noble, 4 on the side of Eclipse. Eclipse is looking good right now. The HP, though, still even. Noble actually with a slight lead right now. Dark God Zim getting absolutely lit up. 12-35 there in that E1. Akula has one more shot, but it's going to be Dodo to finish him off, leaving it a 3-on-3. Drawcap, Brett, and Tigers against Dodo, German, Akula. This could be anyone's game. David, right now, who would you want to be?
Right now, Noble definitely has a significant advantage as long as the autoloaders are clipping for Eclipse, but if they spend too much time here waiting around, Brett will get reloaded and he will come in and take out 2 heavies very, very quickly, as they're very low on their hit points here. Dictating the overall structure of the battle is what Eclipse is trying to go for. Draw cab 1 shot away, and now Noble starting to back off as Brett comes in fully loaded, and Eclipse now starting to look like they might have a chance.
Ooh, but a nice pickup there from Akula, getting draw cab out in that E5, leaving in a 3-on-2 in favor of Noble. They're putting cap pressure on. It's up to just Tigers and Brett. 1 shot from Brett there, hitting Akula for 894. He still has 4 more rounds of pain to dish out on the Noble. There's the resets going through on the Dodo. 992. 1 more shot from Brett, and he's going to go down, tying it up 2-2, but Brett only has 1 more. Once he takes this shot, he's going to have to get out of there. If he goes down right now to Akula, which he might. Akula's shot is up and ready. He is aiming. He's forgetting about cap, and he's going to take down Brett, leaving just Tigers. Tigers is above half health. Akula and Germ both low. A nice shot there. Nice double shot coming in from Noble, holding it on. Tigers might have had a good point there, but with Noble getting him down in the HP, they're just going to chase him. Tigers might be able to pick up Akula right now. If he does, he's got to watch out for Germ. His turn. The shot missing for both Noble and Eclipse. 4 minutes on the clock, though. Plenty of time for anything to happen right now. And David, do you think Eclipse can take it with just 1 tank?
It's going to be an uphill battle, but Tigers in a T22 is certainly still in a reasonable situation here. 2 shots is all he's going to need to really bring this match back. He's got to have 2 into Germ, but only 1 into Akula. If he can get an easy pick, all he has to do is start bouncing off of that notorious T22 side armor, and he could be in the game. Right now, trying to cap is pretty much off the table for Noble, so they will have to chase around a tank that has higher mobility overall. Tigers knows this, and this is utterly genius. Many people will usually spend too much time trying to get those picks, but Tigers knows all he has to do is back off, let Akula and Germs waste some time looking for him. He is on defense. If the time runs out, he will win. So Germ and Akula trying to get that pick, but they will have to get back on cap in a certain amount of time here to get that pressure and bring Tigers back into their shot solutions. But either one of them with a solid connection will take out Tigers, and Tigers has many more shots to go. Overall, though, surprising comeback from from Eclipse in that situation. A lot of autoloaders brought him back. A lot of autoloaders made it a little bit of an area of contest for them after everybody originally dumped all their shots. But Noble, a wonderful play to draw Eclipse into the kill zone and finding that isolation and putting as many tanks as possible onto those shots. And if they were able to convert that a little bit faster, they might have been in business. But some fantastic play out of the W100 played by Brett brought Eclipse back into this fight entirely, and I'd have to go back and honestly look at that 100 different times to tell you all the little things that happened, and that is an absolutely excellent match so far.
Right now, as you guys can see on the bottom of your screen, that is Tigers. He is the last remaining teammate alive on the side of Eclipse. And there you go, David Noble applying the cap pressure. Now, I was about to ask you, which cap would you apply pressure to if you were Noble? Was it 1? Would it be 2? Would you put 2, 1 on each?
Well, this one was closer, so that might be a little bit of it, but it also has a lot better cover in general. The 2 cap is great if you have a lot of tanks because you can control those angles, but without them, Tigers could pop up from any possible vector there and get a quick reset, and then he has buildings to block them. So right now, Noble's trying to look for the longest sight lines they can get to see Tigers coming in to guarantee they can get that shot. With 20 seconds left, Tigers is definitely going to have to be careful here. But if he finds the right shot, he may be able to drag this out just long enough as we're starting to get past the point. Tigers stepping up. He sees Akula, but Akula picks him up.
Just like that, all the hope that Eclipse had vanished with 1 shot. A fantastic job from Noble right there, picking up that victory. Man, that was intense. I mean, this is what I've expected. This is what I expect from a finals match between some of the top teams in the league. Just a close battle from both of these guys. And now, again, stats being something that's super important for tonight because everyone's looking at their, how much damage we do. But before we even get to stats, I want to talk about right at the end there. Tigers had a lot of HP right before that kind of the initial 2 shots from Noble came out there. He was above half health. And if those 2 shots would have connected and they connected on a T22, that could have been a lot different story.
That definitely would have been a different game, but I mean, we can go back and nitpick every little thing. Let's go ahead and get into the stats right now. And we'll see exactly who carried most of that battle for Eclipse and for Noble.
Let's check out those stats.
Well, let's go ahead and start off with Eclipse. Brett, what a fantastic game from him. 10 shots, 9 hits, and 9 penetrations for 4,883 damage. Over here, Tigers, last man alive, 3,000 damage for him, 1,500 for Pupil, 1,500 for Draw Cab. The rest of the team getting their shots in. It looks like Mort took a lot of that early damage as they first pushed around. Let's go over here and check out Noble. Germ, the overall caller for the battle, and with a 113, 5,000 damage. Akula right behind him with 3,376. Dodoma behind them with 2,885, 1,595 out of Marsh. And the only person really not getting a solid foothold into that battle was Militant, as he got absolutely shredded from the back of that train by the W100. There's not a whole lot you can do about that.
You can't really stop that hurt train going in there. But I want to talk about the beginning. Noble drawing the members of Eclipse right to the center. And I saw what they wanted to do, right? They're we got them here. Let's take the overmatch. And they went over. They just didn't find it quick enough, it seemed like. And it allowed Eclipse to start collapsing down on the positions. But Noble came back from that one. Congratulations, picking up the first victory of the finals. It's not over. It is far from over, ladies and gentlemen. The next battle is about to begin. Let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got for our tanks.
For Noble, a 113 and E100, 2215s and IS4, a T22 in Marsh and his M40, M43, the artillery Noble loves to use whenever possible. And I actually approved it on this match. We'll get into that in a little bit here. Eclipse with 2215s and IS7 and E5, a T22, a W100, and an Object 416.
All right, it's kind of David talking about the approval of that artillery. for the side of Noble?
Well, it helps offset a lot of the pressures that you have on this map. It's able to effectively splash the 1 cap, parts of the 2 cap that will prevent Noble from having to push into some of those kill zones that they were looking for on Eclipse. So they are essentially defending against what they would do on this map, which is pretty common when you look at how teams learn an understanding of a map. They try to capitalize on the things that they know and prevent people from getting that advantage on them as well. Eclipse instead going for a 1 cap, which is a bit strange considering the artillery, but perhaps they don't care about that much. Perhaps they realize if they can get an early tank-on-tank fight here, they do have a full tank advantage, as the Optic 416 simply does not have the damage per minute or the angles to fire in a lot of these areas. Master Pupil, Dark God Zim, Tigers on the outside of these buildings now. Akula the only one to stop them.
Right now, the cap pressure being applied by Dark God Zim and Tigers. A nice little bit of damage, getting the reset there. 388 going to that T22. But it looks like it is not going to phase him more. Starting to set up there in that I-7 around just to make sure that Noble can't come down. Now, David, if you are Noble right now and you see Eclipse going for this cap, what are your plans? Do you say, hey, Marsh's got this? Do you leave it on him? Where do you start moving the rest of your tanks?
Their strategy is able to get these offsets, but it's Canadian Impact that's a huge risk right now. If Eclipse is able to step up, they could pick him off. Right now, Akula taking a boatload of damage, and that's going to put Eclipse in a much better position to win. Master Pupil blocking Canadian from getting those shots. Master Pupil taking 1,564 damage on his own.
Tigers also taking over 800 there from the M40, M43, driven by Marsh, so a lot of damage. But the cap pressure, 25 seconds now on the clock for Eclipse. They just have to either cap it out to win or destroy all the tanks on the side of Noble since they are on offense to pick this one up. Akula wisely getting out of there. Seems like just in time, holding on to just 120 points of HP. 13 seconds on the clock. Noble has to start getting in place to get the resets and then start capitalizing it from there. Now down to 7. Whoa! 869 coming out from Marsh. And that is going to scare Dark God Zim running away from the cap, bringing it back up to 60 seconds, leaving just Tiger there. And it seems like what Eclipse had a nice HP lead is starting to fall. But whoa, Canadian Impact, that's a lot of damage. Draw cap gonna come around the side. Brett's gonna finish him off, and that is gonna be 2 tanks going down for the side of Noble. A nice double kill picking up there. Akula still extremely low. Friction though takes down Dark God Zim. 2-1 Diabetic finally finishing off that 5B for Noble, leaving it to just a 4-on-6. Master Pupil finds Friction, and ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a game. Marsh takes out Master Pupil, leaving Eclipse with just 5 tanks. They have 5,400 points of HP against Noble's just 2,200. T1 Diabetic is loading. He is low on HP. Doesn't matter though, the rest of his team is just gonna keep ending these tanks one at a time. Mort picking up a kill there in that I-7. Militant just trying to hide as much as he can, but there is nowhere that he can go. Marsh is out of the fight, and there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Once this tank falls, it is just going to be an artillery left for Noble. Militant takes down Tigers right before he goes down himself. Brett just goes in and leaves a final shot just in case. 23 seconds on the clock. They are still applying that cap pressure in the center, but they're like, forget that. We have 4 minutes and 30 seconds to go fight an artillery, boys. Let's go hunting.
Nice shot by Marsh connecting with draw cab there at the end. It's not going to make a huge difference as Eclipse capturing the perfect situation they needed to convert on Noble.
Whoa!
Getting Noble to wrap around them to try and get that reset so they could get that isolation, and Eclipse putting their first point on the board.
Tying it up now 1-1. Again, nothing less I would expect from the top teams in the league. Just so amazing battles going back and forth between these teams. Now, looking at what Eclipse just did right there, you've got Noble with the artillery being able to apply that cap pressure. Like, okay, if you leave cap pressure too long, he can just reset you. And usually what you see teams doing there is Noble would have eventually just bled out Eclipse and then taken the fight, and Eclipse is like, no, we're not going to take that. Let's go into stats before we kind of continue on with the rest of it. So stats.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Going to start off with Noble. Marsh actually putting up the top damage for his team. 4 shots, 4 hits,
Holy
and 4
snap,
penetrations.
Marsh.
That's simply the best game I've ever seen
Made it
him
work.
play in the M40, M43 at the perfect time. 2789 out of that artillery. Germ right behind him again near the top, 1866. Militant with 1726, trying to play around the outside in his T22, getting caught out there at the end. Not much you can do about that. Akula, Friction, Canadian Impact, and Dodo all in the later half. That's not something you'd usually expect. That's basically the top 4 players in their team in most situations, but right now, a very different pattern coming out here. Maybe Eclipse is starting to focus on those people, or they've just planned those positions. Often you put your best players in those positions, so that makes a whole lot of sense. But for Eclipse, draw cab with 42-39 in his 2-1-5. 29-69 out of Master Pupil, 23-36 out of T1 Diabetic. Apparently they switched out their W100 players for this strategy. It's just a very interesting pattern in this. Mort with 21-31 in his eyes, 19-43 out of Tigers, 11-82 out of Brett with 2 kills. And Dark God Zim, I mean, he got body contacted by the M40, M43, and the whole purpose he had on that was to be a very flat tank in that depression there on the 1 cap so they could get a better overall cap pressure. Eclipse just waiting to see if that cap would work. They knew the positions. When they see Akula and they see Canadian Impact in those positions they're in, they can already start seeing the separation. Noble tried to adjust and bring Dodoma in, but their lineup just is not resilient enough with it as long as they're bringing the artillery. So it's one of those things, again, where you always got to start trying to figure out whether it's worth it or not. And that was very close. It's a perfect accuracy game out of Marsh.
Well done, Eclipse. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're switching sides again. Noble back on offense, Eclipse back on defense. Let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got for our tanks.
For Noble, 2 113s, 2 215s, 2 E5s, and an Object 416. The same lineup we saw from them in the first game. Eclipse with an E100, a 215, an E5, a T22, a W100, a T10, and a T54 E1. So again, mirror matchup from the first game for both of these teams. And we will see if their plans work out a little bit better for Eclipse this time, or if Noble can brush up on their rough edges and make that more of a secure victory. Only time will tell as Noble starts pouring into the middle. Not a change of strategy overall. Noble confident they're going to get that same sort of adjustment. Looks like Eclipse is actually going to leave their W100 back a little bit more than he was. He can actually swing into 2 different locations. The faster he gets into the battle, the more guaranteed this is for Eclipse to win. But Noble with a roughly 400 hit point lead right out of the gate.
Good.
We'll see how well that works. Noble with a tier 8 for their last tank, while Eclipse is taking 2 tier 9s. Typically that means a little bit better DPM advantage overall.
Now this is the thing about Noble. Last time they really went up all at once and applied that cap pressure here right in the center. This time starting to wait off. It seems like they might be trying to bait Eclipse out. Canadian Impact being spotted out, just dodging a shot there, it sounded like, from that E5 driven by Drawcap. But here we go, rinse and repeat for Noble. Let's see if they can turn this into a victory right here. As you can see on your stream, that is Germ driving the 113. We have him in the turret cam, 28 seconds on the clock. A shot going right over drop cap there in the E5. Milton bouncing one in his E5 there. And the battle is about to begin as 20 seconds on the clock. Eclipse starting to move in from the same time. Deja vu, David. Deja vu indeed. Let's see who's better at adapting. Is it Noble or is it Eclipse?
I tell you, if Noble does the exact same thing again, it will not work out for him this time. However, Eclipse does have a different vulnerability. If Noble instead decides to head towards Drawcap and Brett, they might be in business.
Right now, though, Germ taking a lot of initial damage there for that push. 802, a couple more shots. He might go down, but Brett taking 1343, and Master Pupil finds Germ, the first tank going down for Noble. That's a second now going down. Milton falls to Drawcap, but here comes Noble. What a response. A double kill coming out from them. Friction getting extremely low. More takes him down that T10, and the battle has yet to stop as Akula taking 729 here. Marsh trying to play catch up, running in from the back in that 416. Gonna try to make something to help his team out right now as T1 Diabetic takes down Akula, leaving Noble with just 3 tanks. Canadian Impact might be going down, but not before Dodo finds a kill, taking down Master Pupil. It is now 3-on-3, but the HP lead almost 3,000 for Eclipse, and there it goes. Tigers finds Canadian. Marsh does take down Drawcap. T1 Diabetic lets one of those shots go in the D100. He looks like he's a pretty hefty reload timer, but it is not going to matter right now as Dodo is getting surrounded. The shot from Tigers. Oh, a little bit of a low roll there. Dodo is going to be able to finish off Mort, but Tigers is just going to stop that hope from ever coming back right now, leaving just Marsh. And David, you were absolutely right. If anything was going to go well for Eclipse this time, it definitely did. Noble tried to find an area to catch him out. Did a little bit of a difference, but it's not going to matter. And I'm assuming there's just really nothing. Marsh has a pretty good reload. He might be able to chunk down Tiger this time.
He's got a reasonable DPM, but head-to-head here, I believe the T22 is actually slightly ahead. I believe of roughly about 200 hit points overall per minute. But Eclipse putting their second point on the board and now taking the lead over the defending champs.
Woo! There we go here. Now picking up 2-1 against Noble. The rinse and repeat. So when I see something like that, this might be a little too early to assume, but you've got Eclipse doing the same thing, Noble doing the same thing, and Eclipse coming out way stronger than last time. So would you say that was kind of the edge? Noble or Eclipse a little better at adapting than Noble in that situation?
Well, we'll have to go to the stats first to really break it down,
yeah,
but I
we
believe
will.
I saw a couple different things that really led to the overall downfall of Noble on that match. So let's go ahead and check out the stats and verify that for ourselves. Let's start off here with Noble. Dodoma with 3260 in his E5. Marsh with 3185 in the Object 416. It's a lot of damage, but he did come in quite a bit late. Tigers being the alternate flanker for Eclipse got in there much faster, and that helped seal that overall very, very quickly. 25-21 out of Canadian Impact. Roughly 1,500 for Akula, and everybody else just not getting in that initial damage. And over here for Eclipse. T1 Diabetic with 3154 in his E100. Tigers coming in with a fantastic flank, 3,000 damage for him. 2,300 for Master Pupil, 2,000 for Draw Cab, 1,800 for Brett. And this was almost a huge deal. We'll get into that. Brett bouncing 2 shots directly in the face of a 215.
Wow.
And that was Noble's immediate problem. Actually, let's go ahead and talk about this right here. The rest of Eclipse getting in over 1,000 damage each.
Yeah.
A nice spread from them, and a huge reason why they bring the double tier 9 setup. Now, Eclipse could have lost Brett instantaneously with how close up he was in the W100.
Okay.
Noble dumped a lot of shots on him. They did not finish him before he got his clip off. Brett panicking a little bit, trying to get all his shots out, because that's all that mattered in that situation. He was going to die.
Dump it,
He
I'm
needed to
gonna
get all
die.
5.
Right.
He bounced the last 2, perhaps missed the last 2, didn't exactly see, and that was not ideal for Eclipse, but it was enough. With Tigers coming in the T22 to get that nice flank before Marsh was able to come in and support Noble, due to the overall starting patterns they had, Eclipse was put in a perfect position to win. A lot of little rough bounces there for Eclipse at the end, but it wasn't all that important as they had already had it and perhaps were already starting to celebrate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is right. Eclipse now up 2-1 against Noble as we go into our final battle between these two teams on Ghost Town. Can Noble come back and tie it up, or will Eclipse make it 3-1? Ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got for our tanks.
For Noble on defense, a 113, 2215, 2 IS4s, a T22 and an M40, M43 again. Eclipse with 2215s, an IS7 and E5, a T22, a W100, and an Object 416. Interested to see what Eclipse does here. Again, the chance for the 1-cap pressure. I think they might be pushing it a little bit too far if they want to try that exact same strategy again. So perhaps changing it up, using the exact same lineup but going to a different place is always a significant advantage on the other team. As long as you have equal opportunity to win from both starting positions, you throw them for a loop because they don't know what to expect. And right now, Eclipse flooding across the southern side of the map, Noble exploring the northern side, even starting to clear the cap to guarantee they've got better shots. You can see here Noble starting to fire into this cap to get rid of all those destructible buildings for clearer shots for the reset. Noble has no idea that they're in the south until just now, with Militant getting spotted and Militant spotting Master Pupil and Draw Cab. Now Noble has to adjust, and we're going to see what Eclipse's master plan here. They're going to have to get some sort of motion going before Noble can block them out from the rest of this map.
That's right. Now it's going to see if Eclipse, if they wait too long, Noble might be able to reposition. I would say right now or never is the time for Eclipse to find a pick, and 660 damage onto Militant is a good way to start that. 440. Again, as you guys can see, if their names are lit up in yellow, that means they are spotted for both of the teams here. The rest of the teams can see where they are at. A shot just missing from Tigers. Militant looks like he gets the safety.
And a back angle. They've got a lot of pressure on Marsh, and now Noble will have to rotate back to defend it, but they will have to rotate back through a lot of defending guns for Eclipse. They've locked down the 4 line, and perhaps the M40, M43 could spell the downfall of Noble right now.
This might be exactly what Eclipse is looking for, and if this happens again, if I were Noble, I would hesitate to bring in artillery, but it is far from over. 6 minutes and 17 seconds on the clock. We still have well into the battle to go, and anything can happen, as we've seen here. A little bit of damage onto Master Pupil and Tigers, as well as Akula, but not too much. Not damage on an HP-wise, but some of their equipment, but nothing that they cannot work around here. More seeing that I-7. Now Eclipse, looking at the kind of the awkward, looking like a dance going on between both of these teams here. No one really wants to make those initial pushes. If you're Eclipse, what do you think is the best way to catch Noble out? And if you're Noble, what do you think the best thing to do is?
Well, Noble right now is definitely under pressure. They're probably not used to this kind of dynamic play, this kind of pressure from so many different positions. Friction has had to drop back in a 2-1-5B. A tank's so slow, it's not necessarily going to be able to get into that middle fight. If Noble can find that isolation there in the middle, they could get into the battle very quickly. Tiger's keeping tabs on Friction to guarantee he doesn't go anywhere. I'm not even sure if Tigers knows that he's also pinned Marsh in the M40, M43. You can see here the terrain makes a big difference. Tiger's trying to play it as safe as possible, not to give up that early damage, not to allow Noble to soak on them and then start to convert that. Eclipse starting to put a single tank of pressure onto that middle cap. And if Marsh starts deviating too far, it could give Tigers an opportunity to come back in. Noble starting to find a little bit of rotation on the outside. Militant looking at his T22, but he is only 800 hit points. If he makes a single mistake, he could go down almost instantaneously. T1 Diabetic floating around the W100 is always going to be a daunting thing, and Noble starting to move in and look for their angles for reset. Brett putting 942 in a Canadian Impact for a nice opener for Eclipse.
It's a huge opener right now, as now that IS4 has to be a little more careful. 391 right before Canadian gets around the corner. Brett's like, hey, you want to go? Here, take this as a little parting gift right now. 60 seconds on the clock. Tigers now taking some damage in that T22, dropping it to 974 here. 55 seconds, so plenty of time for Noble to start adjusting. Finally, Brett taking a little bit of damage, but not much at all. Eclipse looks like they're just trying to maybe find out Canadian Impact. They've got to be careful, though, because Canadian is backed up by a lot of their team. 361, though. If Master Pupil can get this final shot, that is going to be an IS4 gone. That's going to be a tank down for Noble, and that is going to open up a nice victory for Eclipse. Master Pupil, though, taking a lot of damage to try to get it. Drop cab going to run right up, and that is the first tank fallen for Noble. Just only 100 points of HP down. Eclipse, though, is just going to try to take the snowball and continue it. 1340 going into Akula. They want more. They've tasted blood, and they want the rest of Noble in their stomachs. 1,072 going into Akula. Master Pupil finishes him up there. Moore getting extremely low, but he might be able to get out of this one alive. 1244 in the dirt. No! Friction comes in from the back to take out that IS-7. Master Pupil, though, does find Jerb. 4 tanks for Noble. 6 for Eclipse. Noble is going to have to really pull out a miracle to get out of this one, as one of those remaining tanks is an artillery who is kind of out of the battle right now. T1 Diabetic takes down Dodo, leaving Friction to kind of fight for himself with Dark God, Master Pupil, and Brett all around him. Master Pupil finds Friction. Drop Gap takes down Militant. A double kill coming out from Noble, and that looks like it's going to seal their fate. Eclipse picking up, looks like the 3rd victory, David, as we end out our first map of match number 1 here of the finals.
Can you believe it? Eclipse going 3-1 over the defending season champs in their first appearance on the big stage. Dark God Zim coming in to try and finish off Marsh here. Marsh starting to turn. Will Marsh get the shot to finish it up, and Marsh takes him down.
What a shot there! TD mode from Marsh. Oh, that's got to feel good. That has got to feel good.
It's one of those things that you can lose the entire match, but when you're in the artillery and pretty much everybody else is struggling to get all their shots in, there's not much a whole lot you can do about it besides contribute, but when that last guy comes and gets you, you can definitely take him out. So Marsh in a little bit of a different feel from the rest of the people. Gets a nice little chuckle before they move on to the next map. And like we said, Eclipse up 3-1.
It's got to feel good, though, for Marsh. Maybe the rest of Noble kind of beating themselves up for that one, and Marsh is like, hey, I got to kill there at the end. But yes, not to take away. There it is. He's on your screen, Eclipse. Very happy going up 3-1. Yeah, again, against the reigning champions, Noble. Looking at just kind of the plays that they've been making, what has been standing out to you between Eclipse right now?
Let's go ahead and get into the stats as quickly as possible before the maps change.
Oh, we can talk about that all night.
So we have Dodema for Noble with 26-24 in his 113. Marsh again, 6 shots, 2 hits, 2 penetrations with 5 splash, though. 24-66 overall. Akula, 1,600. And everybody else struggling to even get 1,000 damage in that match. Meanwhile, Eclipse, Brett soaking all day. We actually just got word that Noble took a timeout.
Yep.
That is a perfect time to take one if I ever heard one. Brett sitting in a perfect position to get just all that damage, not having to put it too much at risk, bouncing a lot of shots off of his turret. You can see 1280 blocked from Brett there. Master Pupil right behind him. 1240 blocked from him. 2267 with 4 kills. T1 Diabetic 2213. Drawcab 2000. Dark God Zim 2000 and Object 416. That's crazy talk. Meanwhile,
Nice
Mort
job, Scout.
chipping in 1600. And Tigers, while it's only 1,000 there, Tigers was absolutely
He was
critical
corralling.
for what he did. He kept Friction locked in the one line,
Yeah.
which guaranteed a nice offset match in the middle. Once they took that in the palm of their hands, Tigers rotated away. He's faster than Friction's 215, and they got a perfect isolation, and they hammered it down. By the time Friction got into the fight, it was a 3v1 left for him.
Man.
And that was just an excellent game by Eclipse, dragging Noble left and right and all over the map before they finally found what they were looking for. Doesn't look like this is a regimented strategy to me. Doesn't look like they have a plan that's so scripted that it can't
oh,
deviate.
yeah, this is what we're
all
doing.
they're trying to do is play the basics, spread people out, look for the opening, you look at the advantage you have, you've got a speed advantage, you've got the burst out of the W100, and you go for it. They're down at tank essentially with the M40 and 43, and if you put pressure on it, if you put pressure on that artillery, now you're down 2 because somebody else has to block him.
Yeah, fantastic job for Eclipse. Again, going 3-1 right now. And one of the things that we saw, possibly the map we wouldn't see played, we're about to see played right now. Noble's going to be able to play onto steps.
Oh, their fallback map. Now that's a good choice for them to make the second map, just in case anything went bad, as it has so far.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Eclipse let them pick it, but that's actually kind of intriguing. So far, we're seeing a stellar game out of Eclipse. It would not surprise me at all if they're like, yeah, that's fine.
We studied it.
That's fine. We've got a lot of footage on steps. You want to play it? You want to play it? That's cool.
Good luck.
I'm looking forward to seeing this. A fantastic showing from the newcomers.
Yeah, absolutely. And now going into steps, kind of the confidence the Eclipse has, they just need to hold 2. And they're going to have 2 chances at defense, and if they hold those 2, they are moving on and getting one step closer to $75,000.
That's a great point.
Let's talk about the mentality and holding 2 on steps, which is so, in our opinions, defensively heavy.
It can be.
Well, right, yeah, you can throw that off. But let's kind of talk about the mentality now. As Noble coming into this one from last season for the finals, again, being a little more lighthearted, I feel like not letting any sort of, like, they went down, I think, 1-5 against High Voltage in their second match, and not really letting that affect them or kind of get under their skin. After this, do you think that there's potentially that mode? I mean, can you kind of feel that from that team that they might be going on tilt?
Well, I can't exactly see Noble from here. Usually we haven't seen that out of that, but coming into this match, I'm not sure if they necessarily expected Eclipse to put this much of a fight up. And the big problems for Noble is it's not just a failure of strategy in a couple instances. Clearly, they're being out-strategized, but they're also not playing cohesively. Some of their best players, Canadian Impact, have been getting taken out first, and that's going to put a team on tilt very quickly.
Focus.
A lot of the things that usually go for Noble haven't been going well for them. Eclipse is taking almost their strengths and turning them into weaknesses.
This is a game, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, we're getting ready to go into the second map. It's Steps. Eclipse is up 3-1 against Noble. Let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got for tanks.
For Noble on offense to start. Eclipse gets the comfortable position of defense, looking to push it 4-1. Noble starting off with an E5, a Bat Shat, an Object 142, T-22s, a T-54, and the M53, M55. That's a seriously risky choice at this point, given how well Eclipse has shown their understanding of the map. Meanwhile, for Eclipse, a Bat Shat, 2 140s, a 907, 2 T-22s, and a T-54 lightweight. And right now, Eclipse going very hard over the north side of the map. They're going to try and take the western control. We've seen people get picked in the west side so far early. Right now, Militant is actually going to post up here in the genuine middle of the field in a series of bushes that's going to give them the same vision at a significant lower amount of risk.
Whoa, we got a
What
boost
is
in an
going on
interesting
over
position.
here?
Look at this. We have not seen this at all. What in the world? Oh, a little bit of damage. Oh, no. Oh, is Dark God Zim up? Is he up enough?
It's time to abandon ship at this point.
Get out.
You've spent already too much time. You can't allow Noble this amount of time to rotate elsewhere. This could be the impetus that Noble needs to get onto that 2-cap and cause a serious problem for Eclipse.
They're going for it, though. They feel like they've committed just too much, and they want to get Dark God Zim up there in that position. And the T-54, he is turning. Let us know right now if you think he's going to make it. Cheer on Eclipse to see if Dark God Zim can make it to the top. And there it is, the crowd cheering like crazy there. It's fun to see that work out for them.
That is just under the wire. There's still just enough time for Eclipse to rotate back. If they take their paths and do not panic too much, they will be in business. But Noble already starting to step on cap. If they find the initial positions they need, Eclipse will not be able to get back without taking a boatload of damage.
That's a great point right now. Noble, 26 seconds already on the clock, and it's up to Eclipse to now rush back. I can totally see what they want to do there. If they got him up quicker, they would have been able to try to push Noble off, maybe force him to the north and take away all hope from them. But right now, Noble's got so much pressure, and Eclipse is now, in a sense, the offensive team as Noble just has to defend their positions right now.
10 seconds left on the timer as Eclipse floods back to try and get this reset.
7 seconds on the clock. They need to find a shot there. Any bit of damage onto any of these members will do. It's down to 2. It's down to 1. Master of People has done a lot of damage right in the last second. They get some damage onto Akula, and that is going to kick off the fight here. Eclipse though coming this over 1,500 points down, but it's not going to matter. They find Germ. More picking up that kill, and they want to keep finding more. Akula turning his attention there on a drop cap, but the focus fire from Eclipse is so on point. Akula does find Drock. Master Pupil, though, takes him out of his response. Dodo driving just by Dark God Zim. It is a bloodbath, absolute chaos. Dodo is getting so low. One shot from him. That T-22 is going to go down. 5 minutes on the clock. Both teams have plenty of time to dish out the damage. Canadian Impact, a nice pickup there on the Master Pupil. It is now a 5-on-5, now 4 as Mort takes down Dodo Ma. And now Friction falling right behind him. Eclipse is on a rampage. Milton takes down T1 Diabetic, but it looks like he's going to go down himself. There it is. He still had 3 shots left. That is a terrible turnaround from Noble. It's a 3-on-2. The cap is no more. Dark God Zim going to take a shot there on Canadian. Oh, just going over the top of that. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite him. It is on Marsh right now. Canadian has to stall as much as possible. A shot in Dark God Zim is a great start there. He's turning his attention to Mort. He is down now on the reload, but no, he's not going to give it to him. Mort picks up that kill, leaving just Marsh on the side of Noble. David, this is Eclipse, it looks like, going up 4-1 against the defending champions.
It's a battle of the reloads as Tigers looking for that final shot on Marsh, and Marsh does not connect. Tigers will take him down, and Eclipse converts this into a 3-game lead on the defending champions.
Eclipse, look at that, the smiles on all their faces, and why wouldn't you be smiling? You are 1 game away from picking up the first match and being 1 step closer to $75,000. David, just talk about a dark horse here. Coming right in, looking super strong here, only giving Noble so far 1 game. 1 game on Noble. Let's get into the stats because I have a lot to talk about that
Let's
match.
check him out. I can't even imagine who got those shots. That amazing reset there at the end.
Absolutely. Stats, let's go.
Let's go. Now for Noble, Canadian Impact always holding it together. 35-17 out of his E5. Militant trying to get it done there at the end with almost 2,000 damage. 1,500 out of Marsh, and the rest of the team, again, not finding the room to get that damage in. T22's not even bouncing over 1,000 damage, which is something you typically expect out of these tanks.
Yeah.
Both Dodo and Akula getting focused very, very quickly. Meanwhile, for Eclipse, a far greater damage spread. 2745 out of Mort. Tigers with 2251 in his bat chat. 2,000 out of T1 Diabetic. 1,700 out of Dark God Zim. Let's see if we can spy exactly who got that absolutely clutch reset. Defense points, 36 out of Drawcab, 41 out of Tigers, 31 out of T1 Diabetic. A lot of people coming in to try and get that last shot. And there was a bounce off a T22 that made me think they weren't going to get it, but that last second, and I'll tell you, when you're on the defending team or when you're on the offensive team and you're trying to get that cap and it comes down to the last second and somebody sneaks it in, it is heartbreaking. It's why we always say, never trust the cap. Just go for it as pressure and try and get that pick. We've talked about the danger of bringing artillery, and right now it is not paying off game after game. Marsh is getting his damage, but it's not enough. It's giving Eclipse too much free reign. They were flooding back from almost a failed boost there,
which is
an unnecessary boost in this instance, and they almost still pulled it out.
It didn't come into play at all right when he got up there. He had to turn right around and join the rest of his team, and they still picked up a victory. Eclipse now, ladies and gentlemen, 1 more game away from sealing this up and moving on to be one of our finalists. Let's see if Noble can keep it alive. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got for our tanks.
For Noble on defense, trying to get their way back into this game. They have not seen this kind of a fight in quite a while. They have been down 4-1 recently. Simple Tankers tested them, so it's not a unfamiliar territory for Noble. Coming out with an E5, a Batchat, 2 140s, 2 T22s, and RU-251. Meanwhile, Eclipse with 2 140s, 2 T22s, a 62A, a TVP, and an AMX 1390. Interested to see how Eclipse takes their approach in this map. They were obviously prepared for their first defense.
Oh my gosh.
They've got that same level of game. They will convert this, and they will move on to the finals. It's going to be a hair-raising finish either way.
Woo, right now Eclipse got to be feeling good. They have so much leeway here. Noble really has to turn on, but we have seen this swing. Noble picks up a game. They pick up 2. They're 1 game down. They pick up another. They're going to tie it up, and that wouldn't be feeling good for Eclipse. So if I were them, I'd want to win this, finish this off as soon as possible. It's interesting to see. I'm fascinated to watch what sort of plays that Eclipse has planned for today. Now, Dave, looking at Eclipse so far, and it's what they've been doing, it seems like their focus fire is something that I have not seen for I feel like a long time from them or a lot of the team members of this league.
That is a certainty, absolutely. Eclipse basically bringing in all of the basics and capitalizing on it. Noble maybe overthinking things, trying to run dynamic strategies involving artillery. It's not working out for them. Like you said, Eclipse getting perfect focus fire at a number of tanks. Nice cover fire in a couple of instances. Mort trying to save one of the T-22s that was going down in the last game. Almost pulled it off. I believe Drawcab let that kind of slip by him, didn't allow his teammate to cover, but other than that, fantastic focus fire, like you said, picking off Dodema, Akula so early in the match, getting a nice track shot on Akula to enable that pick. And that's something that we've been lacking a lot throughout the season so far, as a lot of the teams just not getting easy track shots, and that's how you guarantee that you're going to be able to get a kill. If it can't go anywhere, you will have shots, and if you want to kill a T-22, you need to stop it at the perfect angle to get those shots.
All right now we just had Tigers there on your screen, sitting in that 50-51, looking for just doing a little spotting, making sure that no one could come around from the back here. We've got T1 Diabetic and Drawcab heading up right in the center of Eclipse. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a little unfamiliar with this game, Eclipse is on offense, which means they can win in one of 2 ways. They either have to cap one of the 2 enemy bases that you guys can see in the mini-map in the bottom right-hand corner, either the 1 or the 2. They have to cap that completely without Noble being able to reset them. Or 2, they have to destroy all enemy tanks, and they will win. Noble, on the other hand, being on the defensive side, either has to defend those 2 tanks and survive the full 8 minutes of the battle, or destroy all members of Eclipse. Drawcab in the center right now, just firing off some shots. 2.5 minutes going by on the clock, dropping down to 5:22, and Eclipse, nothing, no sort of crazy plays. They're just kind of keeping it spread out. Saw a lot of the members there in the north. They probably will start putting some cap pressure over on the 1 cap, but man, I'm not even comfortable calling anything because they are just a different team right now.
Noble has bunkered down very, very hard around the 2 cap, trying to wait to rotate where they want to go. Typically when 1 cap pressure is placed on Noble, they rotate around the southern side. Tigers in a T-50-51 TVP, trying to wait for that trap. A number of other tanks, 2 T-22s, T1 Diabetic and Drawcab in the middle to support him. Eclipse is in a great position to catch a normal trap that Noble usually falls into, but Noble not biting on it this time. Eclipse is going to have to put on some sort of cap pressure to initiate that push.
All right, we'll see who it will be. It probably will be a Dark God Zim there as he's on that scout, that ladder tank, that 1390. He's a smaller target for Noble to try to hit, and that would be the tank I would put on the cap if I were them. Right now, down in the south, we do have Marsh in that RU-251 sitting down there. David, do you think he's in any danger if Tigers were able to find him? Does he have enough support from Noble if he gets caught out?
I think he's going to be okay where he is, given the overall terrain. If anybody wants to try and push into the areas where they're going to get those shots, they're going to fall into a lot of other shot solutions. It's the beauty of the positions that Eclipse is using right now, where those 2 140s are. Mort and Master Pupil, we can go check those out right about now. These positions right around here have all sorts of shot vectors. Right in the middle, support directly down that line into the northern side, and Eclipse beautifully set up in the event that Noble wanted to come out and try and battle him out here, but Eclipse is going to have to find a way to make them do that, as Noble certainly isn't going to walk into a final defeat.
Dodo doing a nice job, being very aggressive. The moment that Dark God Zim put on some cap pressure, he pops up in that T-22. Wow, a shot there, 269 from Akula right into Dark God Zim before he even got to set up there. And now here comes that cap pressure from Eclipse. And we kind of talked about how you shouldn't put all of your eggs in this basket of cap pressure, because again, 1 shot. And it's essentially they should be able to keep getting that the defensive team over and over and over again.
Absolutely. Dark God Zim sitting in the back of the 1390. I've always been a little bit more of a fan of putting on the front side of the cap. It's an easier shot for people like Dodo and Canadian Impact over here, but it does limit a lot of the shots that are going to be coming out of the middle. If you walk over here for just a second, you can see Akula is in a position where he can actually fire sidelong into the cap. Militant is right next to him. Germ also leaving. And now they're heading a little bit north. As Eclipse putting on a lot of pressure and pushing directly into the fight, all they have to do is deny this, and they will convert it into a win.
Brett Drock and T1 Diabetic are going to stop Noble from trying to reset this as the cap goes down to 10 seconds. It's now down to 8. If they can hold this out, ladies and gentlemen, they are 1 step closer. They would have 5-1 Noble. It's down to 2. It's down to 1. Professor Pupil takes a shot. A beautiful pickup there. And now the resets are starting to pour through. It looks like the cap is not going to be a go for Eclipse. Noble has done a great job, and they've found a tank. Noble starting to come back here. Dodo does go down there. Germ gets extremely low. Brett takes a kill. Mort gets focused, dropping him down to below half health in that 140. Friction coming to join the fight, full health in that 140 as well. Marsh finds Tigers, then that is 2 tanks down for Eclipse. Only 1 for the side of Noble. There's 3, and Noble is on fire right now, taking tank after tank. Friction, this is going to be his 3rd kill once he takes down Mort. A nice pickup there. Germ staying safe there in his 140, holding on with just 182 points of damage, leaving just Dark God, Zim, Drawcap, and Brett to find out for Eclipse. So close there coming out from the offense team. Eclipse almost found a victory, but right now Noble is just 2 set up. Friction finds another kill. That's, I think, 4 or 5. He's doing a fantastic job with the kills there. Canadian Impact focuses down Drock, leaving just Brett there. He's got a little bit of damage on the tank. He's down to 307. Milton comes in from the back, and Noble picking up a victory now, holding on to all that they have got now. The score is 4-2, still in the lead for Eclipse, but this could be the beginning of a nice comeback from Noble. Eclipse, going for that cap pressure, something that we've kind of talked about, not putting all your eggs in that basket. I really did like what they were going for, though. They put the cap pressure on. They also sent 3 tanks out to be like, hey, if they're going to try to come in from the north, we're going to stop them completely. The tanks that did come from Noble actually came in from the south there. They're the ones who got the resets. But before we talk about it, let's go into some stats.
Let's go ahead and check them out.
Let's check out some stats.
For Eclipse, Brett getting in the most damage with his T62A, 2261, 1300 from Drawcab. About 1100 out of Tigers, although he did get taken down by an RU-251 there at the end. Once the TVP is on its reload, it is an easy target for a flank scout like that. Not a whole lot of damage coming up from the rest of the team as they spent most of their hit points and most of their shot vectors trying to protect that cap pressure there at the end. Meanwhile, Militant putting up nearly 3,000 damage in his bat chat. Canadian Impact 2818, Akula 2148. Now that's starting to look like the Noble that we know and love here. 1,600 out of Germ, 1,000 out of Friction with 3 cleanup kills. And while nobody else really put up over 1,000, they're all very, very close, and that's a nice damage spread from a defensive team on Steps. We did say that Steps is the fallback map for Noble.
Yeah.
This is why. However, Eclipse was one small move away from winning everything there. The cap pressure was one thing, right? But if they had taken all those tanks instead of blocking on cap and pushed them directly up against that berm, as soon as anybody tries to get that reset, you flood them, you kill them. They fought on the wrong side of the berm. They allowed Noble to get the concave, wrap around them, get those shot vectors in. Had they just pressed the engagement, that would have been a final win for them. They'd be moving on to the finals.
Super close here indeed. They still just need one more victory, right? They're still this entire for the next couple games.
And they're on defense now.
For the next all games. Yeah, they're one more step away. They're about to go on to defense, onto Steps, unless Noble comes back and pulls out something that we have not seen and stops. I mean, maybe we'll see the boost again for Eclipse. Maybe that's going to work out. Maybe we're going to see kind of what that was going to be. But the fact that even when that failed, they came back, they found Noble. A fantastic job. Ladies and gentlemen, the next battle is about to be underway. Eclipse on defense, Noble on offense. Let's see if they can find their 5th and final victory, or will Noble be able to hold on to it? Let's get right into it and take a look at what we've got. 4 tanks.
For Noble, trying to stay alive, trying to defend their guaranteed position to the grand finals here, trying to even make it through our finals. Noble, 2 113s, an Object 260, a 140, 2 T22s, an RU-251 for Eclipse, a Bat Chat, 2 140s, a 907, 2 T22s, and an AMX 1390. Not bringing the T54 lightweight. Broadcast a little bit, they're not going to do that boost, but I don't think Noble saw it, so it's not necessarily all that important.
That's the thing.
As Eclipse can definitely switch up their actual approach. See, Noble has now dropped the artillery. They're actually starting to look a little bit better to convert this one into a win. Marsh is going to lead scout the eastern side, and Noble's going to play it on the east and try and push up against Eclipse. If Eclipse has done their homework, and it looks like they have, dropping back Drawcab into what we've affectionately called the Drynet spot, C0 over there. We'll be able to get a lot of nice shots, and it looks like these two teams are going to go head-to-head as everybody meets on the east side of Steps.
Tigers should be able to spot out what Noble is doing right now. Marsh sees them. Tigers looking for him. A shot just going right over the top of that Bat Chat. And Tigers might be able to get away safely. It looks like he should, just in time, be able to get down to that berm, leaving the rest of Noble. Try to find him. Marsh taking a shot, though, 322. And I love what Eclipse has done right now. They went so aggressively in the north, and that is one thing that Noble did know. They did know that they were coming from the north. They saw none of them over here in the east, and so they decided to do it again. Eclipses go, well, if they think we're going to do that again, let's just put our guys here. and then make them come to us, and that is exactly what they have done. Noble right now, looks like they're trying to decide. Not as easy of a cap as last time, that's for sure.
You can almost feel the tension of the situation
Oh my
Drawcap's in
gosh,
with all this
absolutely.
dust spraying up. All of the guns of Noble trained on him to make a single mistake they can capitalize on. This position being so incredibly important, but there's a huge curveball going out here as Noble is on the inside of the steps here, and Eclipse starting to find the solutions where they're going to be able to capitalize on that.
Right now, coming around, driving from the center road, they might be able to surround Noble and be able to get some early picks. Germ being spotted out now. They see Master Pupil. He takes a shot there in that 113. Not too much damage onto him, but he should be able to broadcast to Noble what they are doing. And Master Pupil, meanwhile, taking 863. Now, this is the thing you got to think about Eclipse. If Noble picks up this victory, now they're 3-4. They're going to be also
Tiger's
on
taking
defense.
1,200 damage in his bat shot.
Wow, a lot of damage there, dropping down to 632. He's got to be careful right now. Noble doing a great job increasing that HP gap between them and Eclipse. If they can keep this up, he might be able to find a victory here. 5 minutes and 44 seconds on the clock. Plenty of time for Noble to try something here. A little bit of damage going on to Noble, but not as much as going on to Eclipse. And David, looking right now, what would you do if you're Eclipse? Noble sees what you're doing. They've repositioned themselves to try to stop it.
Well, once they see this middle push, they will have a serious advantage if they want to step onto it. Noble not understanding exactly what they're stepping into. And now it all goes on the line.
Right now, though, Dark on Zim is being the focus. He goes down. That is the first tank fallen for Eclipse. It is a 7-on-6. Let's see if that means, it's a 7-on-5 as Akula takes down Master Pupil just like that. It is Marsh, though. Here comes the response from Eclipse, taking down that RU-251. Friction now has to be careful there. T1 Diabetic doing a great job with those shots. Brett coming in, looking for anyone that he can. His shots now are going to go into Militant, but it misses there. More trying to drive away. 285 going on to him, and we have a battle. If Eclipse picks this one up, they will make it 5-2. That will be their 5th victory. Here comes Noble now. They're going to try to do all they can to keep this one in the bag. Germ, one more shot away in that 113. He's got to be careful, but he is not afraid whatsoever. He steps up to the plate, and Akula finds Tigers. Mort does take down Germ, though. 5 tanks on the side of Noble, 4 on the side of Eclipse. Now it's a 4-on-4 as Brett takes down Milton. Dropcap takes down Friction. T1 Diabetic finds Canadian. 3 kills. What in the world is going on here, ladies and gentlemen? Eclipse has now just turned it around. It is a 3-on-2. It is a 3-on-1. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is Eclipse picking up their first victory of the match. They are one step closer to $75,000 and claiming the title of the WGLNA Season 2 champions. What in the world is happening? Congratulations to them. Look at all so happy. Master Pupil right there. The rest of the team congratulating each other in a fantastic turn of events. The final score, David, the final score between Eclipse and Noble was Eclipse 5-2.
I can't even believe it right now. What an incredibly close game and a perfect end to that set. I had no idea how Eclipse was able to come back from that. They had so many isolations on Noble's side. Noble shot so fantastically to open that game up. They pushed back Tigers off some of the most important positions of the game. But when it came down to Drawcap coming in from behind in the T22, maybe a little late or maybe just in time, the focus fire and conversion that Eclipse pulled out there, I would have thought they've been playing this game longer than anybody else around. That was one of the most composed and best situations I've ever seen anybody play out of.
Yeah, I can just to give you guys kind of a refresher if you forgot. This is the youngest team right now coming from Silver League, making it through relegations, obviously way past relegations, making it through the playoffs, now into the finals, taking down Season 1 champions. A fantastic job. Congratulations to them. And now they're one step closer. They're one step closer. Now it's whoever wins between Simp and High Voltage, they have to face off against. But if I was High Voltage, if I was them watching that, I'd be scared. When they were down, when they were quote-unquote down, when they, it's clearly Noble, or they're coming in from a failed push, they're coming in with a bunch of HP down, they still turn it around and find those victories and find that just amazing focus fire, which I kind of talked about, was unreal. It's like, yeah, Noble gets a kill. Eclipse got a kill. Noble got a kill. Eclipse got a kill, and a kill, and a kill, and a kill. Fantastic job from them.
Still recovering.
I'm sure.
I'm still recovering from that.
So is 50% of the people right now who watch the show. 50% of the people are now going on
All
fantasy.
WGL players right now are like, I'm glad that was a fantastic game, but man, rip my fantasy points.
Right now they're like, well, I guess that game is done.
What a game.
Congratulations again. Fantastic
On steps, no
job.
less.
Oh,
In Noble's house.
Yeah, there's just so much to talk about. Let's take it over with Meadowhawk, who's in the player pit with the winning team Eclipse. Meadowhawk, take it away.
Oh my God, you guys, what a match. I am here with Tigers, with Eclipse, who is the David to Noble's Goliath. How does it feel to knock off the last season's champions?
Pretty amazing, to be honest. I came in with a lot of respect for Noble, and they played a great game, but we were just on our game. Strategically, tactically, we made our focus fire really good. We made some really good flexes. Everyone responded really quickly, and looking forward to the finals already. I don't know who won at a Simp in HWC, but we're looking forward to seeing who wins that match, and sights set on winning that 75K.
You are one step closer to winning 75K. Now, that boost, coming out there, a little bit of an error. However, you recovered. Which one of those tier 10 tanks, I might say the T22, bailed you out of that error?
First of all, hashtag blame Brett. Second of all, well, we knew that we could make the boost a second attempt because I was scouting the south, and I knew that the only way to scout that aggressively would be the bat chat coming up the 2-3 line. And so I had that covered, and I also had the bat chats covered on if they're coming up the east. And so we knew we could give it another attempt, but it didn't matter for that game because they were playing the east anyways, so we had to make a flex out. In fact, that delayed boost almost threw us the game because it meant we were delayed in coming back to the east, but it worked out, and luckily we were able to win the game anyways.
So upcoming, we have High Voltage versus Simp. Does Eclipse have a preference as to who they'd like to play in the finals?
HWC is shit. No, we don't care. I mean, whichever team wins is going to be the better team, so we have no preference. We've scrimmed against both teams recently, and we know they're both really good and on top of their game. So whichever team emerges will be the better team, and we'll look forward to trying to beat them.
Well, best of luck indeed. And now with some special announcements with regards to player awards and fantasy winners for this season. Over to you, Tube Fobar.
That's right. Earlier in the show, we announced not only did we have an MVP, but we also wanted to share some awards with some players who had some other accomplishments throughout the season on Season 2 of the WGLNA. And those awards go to winners. With the most fantasy points, Adroxis, he gets himself an award. And then we also have the winner for the most damage given, which was 148,662 points of damage to Vitro. He also wins the award for most tanks destroyed, which was 84. So good on you, Vitro, for getting all the work done. That's pretty amazing in itself. And coming up after the break, we have got the second match of tonight's event, and that is going to be Simp versus HWC. And we also have a little video that HWC shared with us, sharing some of their in-game comms to see how they get down when they play.
In-game